it's 11 o'clock here, so might as well jump right into it. So my name is Jordan Myers. I've been with our Palm Harbor Market Center for 7 years, 2013. In May of 2013 is when I joined. Had a team here. We currently have 31 active listings. It's a total of $24 million in inventory. So my goal is to just focus on getting all that sold, and I think we'll have a good year here. As everyone here, I know there may be some new agents on. Want to get a feel. I can see most of you out there. Is everyone here? Has anyone not gone on a listing appointment at all? Like any sort of listing appointment whatsoever? You know, we can use the chat feature too. Just have a habit of asking questions, and so then I realized not everyone can answer me right away. So if we use the chat feature, so we'll just kind of get a feel here for those who have and those who haven't. So the premise is, has anyone else seen a change over the past year here, or really the past 4 months, in anything that they're doing? If anyone wants to unmute and go or chat. So a couple of you have not seen a change. A couple of you have not been on a listing appointment. Okay, so the premise is here. I've gone on both over the past few months. I've done in person, as I've always done, and then we've switched to this virtual listing presentation on some occasions, right? And it really comes down to, in my opinion, the client's preference. My preference is to still have a face-to-face listing presentation. I've just found that I've had it's kind of like you get into this rhythm in a script that you follow, right? And I mean, that's what we work for every day, right? So presuming everyone's practicing their listing presentation every day, and we're not practicing on the clients, right? So, and for those of you who have not been on a listing appointment, the general premise, I would say, can everyone hear me? Can I just get some like nods if you can? Okay. The general premise is, of course, having your presentation down subconsciously, so you're not having to worry about what you're saying, but you're listening to what the client's saying and what they're trying to accomplish, right? So that doesn't change here when we go to a virtual listing presentation. We still want everything to be the same. However, the main things that are changing here, of course, of how we're interacting and making that happen, and trying to still stay on your same somewhat presentation. You know, you want to stay on that same track. Is my intention, is to stay on the same track, and then of course try to have technology be the least of my issues here. So a couple of things we're going to go over today are some of the ways that I've prepared the clients for the virtual listing presentation, and then how I've prepared in general to for these presentations, just so it goes a little smoother. And hopefully you can take this information and use it as well, some of these little tips. So the first thing, this isn't going to be a class on how to use Zoom, how to look into the camera, how to use the client's name, how to do some of those technical things via Zoom. Okay, and first off, presuming that the client has Zoom, we're all here on Zoom now. We never want to assume that a client is automatically on Zoom. They may have never heard of it, right? Some of those things, or they may use Skype their whole life, and if so, some of those things may be a little bit of a instructional guide on, which we'll talk about a little further here. So in general, we want to, a best practice is to send out a pre-listing packet before all of your listings. And this has been for several years. And that has been done typically several years ago, it was done as an actual packet delivered to the doorstep, and it still can be done to this day, right? We still do that to this day. And however, that also can be emailed to them prior. So what we're finding we're doing here on the preparation for the appointment, we're still, right, leads, listings, leverage, right? So we're still finding leads every day in attempts to find listings. So when we get those appointments, a couple extra questions we're having to ask now is just, you know, are you okay? Are you comfortable with me coming to the property? And, you know, can I meet you at the house? Or, you know, it's just really, some people have a different gauge on this, right? And you may not want to, if you have yourselves in a high risk, you know, you're in a high risk category or something like that, you may be the one that doesn't want. That doesn't mean you can't take listings still, right? So you can ask them if it's okay if you do a listing presentation just to keep everyone safe, right? So this may be on your end too. Hypothetically, say we're okay, so we have decided that we are going to do a virtual listing presentation. So my intention always, whenever I would go on a listing presentation, is to take the listing on the spot. So I want to have that general mindset here that doesn't change. So when I'm looking across from you here in the camera, my intention is to go through the same presentation and then have you feel comfortable enough that you want to hire me to list your property. And we're going to go through that process here just virtually. So has anyone here done a virtual listing presentation yet? If you put in the chat box, you don't have to put if you haven't, or you can, whatever. But yeah, has anyone done one out there? Okay, so just want to make sure our intentions are clear here today to learn how best practice of how to do one. Okay, so certain things, like I mentioned, where I'm usually starting is the conversation over the phone, the initial phone call, where we're determining that we're going to have a virtual listing presentation, and then you're setting expectations right away. So what we're doing is I'm going to send you a pre-listing packet via email, get all their information, and we'll have instructions on the call. I'll find out right then and there, do you have Zoom? Are you using Skype? Whatever technology we're using that we're agreeing upon that we're going to use. If they already have a Zoom account, of course, you can create a meeting, send your link out. If they've never used Zoom before, then you may have to send instructions. There's instructions right on Zoom's website on how to create an account and to then log into the meeting there. So I've sometimes had to send the instructions as well when this first started on how to download Zoom and how to create an account. And we've just found, you know, Zoom works, Skype works too. Is really any way you can do it. So a couple other tips. I've ended up doing these on my laptop. I taught this class about 2.5 months ago. And I taught it from home because we were still then quarantined. And about a half hour through the course, my power went out in my house. It had like a power surge right as I was teaching this course, and on how to prepare for a virtual listing presentation, right? So everything's a learning curve. So then I jumped that right back on. However, if I'm on my laptop and the power goes out, it's not going to, I'm not going to lose my meeting. Because sometimes you're in that listing presentation, right? For those of you who've been on them, you kind of have your mojo going and you're having a really good rapport and conversation. And then just picture it just going black, right? Not good. So so now I'm doing everything on the laptop. Obviously check your technology before, your audio, video. I had my assistant jump on earlier. We just did a quick Zoom call just to make sure everything was working properly, right? And of course, be in a professional environment, dress as you would normally dress during a listing presentation. Of course, pets and kids can be distracting, so try to do it in an office format, you know, all those things, right? So then what we're also preparing is not just our tech, but the tech of the client as well. What I've found is if there is, I'm also going to find out what type of phone they're using. Is it iPhone or Android? Reason being, at some point, you know, if you've never seen the house here and you're not going to see the house, they're going to give you a virtual walkthrough of the house. We've found that it's easier for the client to walk through the house with their cell phone rather than trying to walk around with their laptop and show you the rooms, right? So if you're on iPhone, of course, you can FaceTime with them once you're on the appointment. Hey, give me a quick tour of the house, just like as you're walking into the house, on a normal listing presentation. So if they're on Android, there's a Duo app. Even if you're on Android or you're on iPhone and they're on Android, you can download Duo. You guys can FaceTime that way, or Skype, whatever it may be. But that's the one. So not just on our computers, we got to find out on the phone too, the best way to video chat. I've just found that's the best practice to do it via the phone, so they can walk around with the phone and you can talk to them. It's easier for them. And then also too, everyone usually has their phone charged. Make sure they have their phone charged, make sure yours is charged. I wouldn't have my mom do it on her laptop because she can never find her charger to her laptop. So I would have her do it on her phone, right? So some of those things, right? And so then we are so that's the prep that we're doing in advance to make sure that this goes as smooth as possible. Nothing's ever perfect, and you find out really in anything in life, and especially in this business, that we will have to, you got to be flexible. You got to be on your toes a lot and be able to just adapt quickly if something does not go exactly to plan. And all right, so any other?
I have a question, Jordan.
Sure.
So you said that you have them do the presentation with their phone. So do you start the presentation with them on their laptop and then ask them to do the virtual tour? And if you do that, how do you connect it? Are they calling you separately from their phone and walking through, or is there a way for them to go from their laptop to their phone so that you could see it?
Yeah, I'm just telling them I'm going to FaceTime them right now, or Duo, or whatever we've set up in advance. So I still recommend that they do we do the presentation from they can be on a desktop or a laptop. That doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter, because I don't want them to be doing the listing presentation from their phone, because I am going to screen share, and they are likely not going to be able to see the documents that they're going to need to sign on their phone. They're going to be able to see it easier on their laptop or desktop. However, I want the walkthrough. So we'll enter the call. Just presume we're using Zoom here. We're going to open the Zoom call. Hi, we're waving. Nice to meet you. Okay, now I'm going to FaceTime you, like I mentioned in the email. And can you give me a quick tour of the house before we start talking about price and your needs, right? So we'll walk through. They'll tell you everything that makes their house great, all the features. And two, I'm going to encourage them, of course, to point out some of the things that may be a concern to them as well, that may be an objection in the buyer's eyes. Not just show you all the good stuff, right? Because when we're walking through the house, we're looking for everything. So I'm encouraging them to look at everything. If you need to stop, just be clear with them. Hey, can you zoom in there, or go slowly, or whatever, if it's blurry. We're just going to do our best here. But definitely, just like anything, get as much clarity as you can. If you saw something that draws your eye, definitely ask them about it. Okay, it's an issue, it's a non-issue, it may come up, it may not come up later. Is there anything I don't know about that I didn't see in the video that I need to know about? That's for the walkthrough. Make sense, Paula?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I saw in a comment, so what I often do, I used to teach a class in the market centers about, this is when technology was all kind of first coming out. I always had a laptop. I never really used it on a lot of my appointments, in case some of these things just came up, or you couldn't get internet in some places. However, what I often do is connect to my hotspot instead of the, like my house's internet in that case. So if I'm doing this from home, I'm connecting to my hotspot rather than my house internet, right? Because if the power goes out, the internet goes out too. So I'm at the office now. So I'm just kind of banking on here that I'm not going to lose internet, and there's like no one here. So the internet should be strong. I'm rolling with it, gambling a little bit. But that's one way where you can get around it. If you have to do it from a location, that's not preferred. However, usually your listing appointments are set in advance. So just like anything, anytime you're presenting, because that's essentially what you're doing is presenting, the more preparation for a presentation, would you say that presentations go better the more prepared you are? Right? I mean, I think that could go for anyone, right? So the more prepared you can be, the more practice runs you can go through, the better. So there's actually been agents across the country that have, they're able to do, like really, you can do 5 to 10 listing appointments a day via virtual rather than spending a half hour, an hour driving to every single appointment in between, right? You can actually get more done this way than you can on the normal face-to-face way. And what we're also seeing, we're in, the retirement capital of the world here. So there's a lot of people who can or do not want to travel to Florida right now to their properties. However, they do have intention of selling those properties. I think my 4th listing when I got in the business. I was calling it for sale by owners. I found a guy who, like, do you want to sell this? He's like, yeah, I wanted to sell it yesterday. I'm like, would you consider hiring an agent? I would. And so we had that dialogue over the phone. This was just a normal phone call, right? And it was my 4th listing ever. And I took that listing over the phone. And it kind of made me think right away in this business, like, man, things I can do, we really do anything, right? Things can be done so many different ways. So in that way, I just explained all the documents without him even seeing them. And then I sent the documents out later. And then of course I had to schedule another time to have a conversation around all the documents that I sent them. Because of course they have questions on every single document. Most do. So what I want to prepare is all those documents in advance that I normally have on my listing presentation if I'm sitting there right there in front of them with a folder on the table. So I have all those documents pre-loaded up on my computer, and then I'm going to go through the conversation just like I normally would. So here's a tip for the new agents, or really any agent, right? So I know sometimes in the very beginning that you may not know all the questions to ask at a listing presentation, right? So a good practice for the new agents when you're face-to-face is to carry a clipboard with you. Like, oh, do you mind if I take some notes as we walk through the property? So you're taking notes, you're writing everything down about the house. But what you also have on your binder is a list of all the questions, right, that you want to ask, just in case you don't forget them, right? So that's a good practice in general for a new agent or any agent, right? Well, especially while you're here in your environment, I can have any question that I want to ask you right here, so I'm not forgetting any of those questions. So those are some other things that you can have prepared as well. So, or really you can take the listing presentation, and you can literally read it verbatim if you really wanted to, and they wouldn't know you're reading off anything, right? So just get like a little teleprompter and read it. So then what I'm doing, so we're at the appointment now, we're sitting face to face, and let's just think, try to think about this a different way. Like I'm literally looking at all of you right now, and it is almost like we're sitting across the table from each other. Essentially if it's full screen here, we're not far away, right? So the still main thing of a listing presentation is to find out what the client's trying to accomplish. So that's usually after you normally do a tour of the property, and then you come back, you have to sit at the kitchen table, right? So you can do your paperwork. Well, here, let's go back. We've done our FaceTime now. I'll meet you back at the computer. Try not to have a gap there in the phone call to back at the meeting, right? So I'm gonna have them come, go back to your computer. All right, make sure we're still connected. Yep, we're still connected here. Okay, now we can end the FaceTime call. All right, now we're back. All right, great. So I'm really finding out at this point, why they're trying to accomplish. Why are you selling? When's the best day for you to sell? All those different questions, right? What are you looking for in the realtor that you hire? What's the best? How can I make this the best experience for you? When do you want to be there? Why are you going there? What's important to you about relocating to Colorado? All those different things. Why are you selling it? What are your costs? Holding costs to keeping this property every single month, whatever it is. And of course, I'm still writing down notes, just like I am in the house. And so then we get to the point, I'll start to do some screen share here. Making sure there's no questions in the chat. All right. Where'd my screen share go? All right, do we have any questions to this point? Let's do some questions before I get into the screen share. Does anyone have any questions to this point of how we're kind of prepared ourselves for the meeting, prepared the client for the meeting, and now as we're sitting down at the meeting and for the presentation going through it here? Any questions to this point?
I have a question. So
Sure.
you have them queue up their computer, and then you say, let's go to the telephone and let's take the tour. And for Android on Facebook, it's FaceTime. No, on Apple, it's FaceTime, and on Android, it's
Duo, D-U-O.
D-U-O. Okay. Okay,
It's
so
a good app. Yep.
that's how you set it up.
Yep, and you can iPhone users can download Duo, and I usually, if they have an Android, be like, don't worry, let's just do it on Duo. I'll download the app. I have it on. But remember, sometimes if they're not tech savvy, you may be speaking another language to them, right? Like Zoom
Right.
and Duo and Dot Loop and whatever, right? So that's why all of this is, I want to take set the expectations in that pre-appointment email. And of course, I want to confirm that with them, just like you're confirming your appointment anyway before every appointment you go on. I want to confirm you got the email. Did you get everything logged in? Are you prepared, for the meeting still? Or what help do you need? So that being said, yeah, does that help you? Does that? Okay. So, but if they're on iPhone, like let's FaceTime. So, but remember, we're logging into the Zoom first. I want them up. I want to see them on the Zoom here. Make sure that their computer's up and running. Great. Okay. Now, can you give me a quick tour of the house? I'm going to FaceTime you right now from my phone, and then walk me through the house that way.
Okay.
Then I'm making sure we sit back down at the computer. I can see them again on the Zoom, because I don't want them to be like, okay, well, I'm outside now. As I said, a 60-acre property yesterday, and they'll be like, okay, well, I'll see you back in the house, and they could never call or never come back in or whatever. So I want to make sure that they're back in and back to the computer, and then we end the call. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then I'm, usually as I'm asking those questions about the property, usually they're going to tell you during the walkthrough, the upgrades they've done to it and those things. I'm usually going to have, I can have all my information up on my computer, because remember, usually when you're in a listing presentation, the only information you have is the information that you brought, unless you're using a computer there. If they start to say something else like that I couldn't visually see online, like, oh, we added another room on this property or whatever, and I'm like, then we're talking about difference in square footage and things like that, like a discrepancy in square footage based on what the tax roll says and what they're saying. Or if they're like a for sale by owner, and sometimes you will see a difference in square footage there, right? And you're like, what's this difference in square footage? All right, so I'm going to do screen share here. I think I am. I can do it when I'm doing from my account. I'm doing it from the office's account here. All right, so essentially what I'm doing is I'm asking them, I always bring some of the things I always bring with me. I get this question a lot on the listing up presentation is I'm bringing the tax roll with me, just the realist account, right? The realist print form, because I want to verify the information. I want to verify the who I'm talking to is the owner, and that I have both owners there, of course. And then I am verifying the square footage. I'm verifying the bedrooms, bath. I'm verifying whatever the flood zone, you know, all those kind of things that we are whatever. I want to find out anyway. Nothing's different there. The only difference is I can now visually, I can like look behind the scenes here on my computer and find out any of that information that I'm trying to find, or that I need maybe additional clarification on that I can't find anyway. But remember, the more information you can have about the house, the different. I guess it could happen where there's something that pops up where you don't know about, or they didn't show you in the video, or they didn't tell you. I just had a client tell me today, we've had a property on the market for a few days, that he had that house tented a year and a half ago. Information would have been useful before we listed. However, sometimes you just have to, so no matter if you have the listing or not, you know, you should be able to find that information. Let's see. Well, it's giving me a little difficulty here on my screen share now, of course. So I don't know if Kevin, are you on here?
Yeah, what do you need? I'm sorry.
It's telling me I need a grant access for screen share, but I don't know if it's on my end. It says I can screen share, it's just not doing it. But
yeah, do you need to sign into? Do you sign into the account, or you just use the link?
Yeah, and it says allow screen share, but what can you do?
Try it now. Can you try now?
Yeah, let me try now.
It just came on.
Somebody's screen is on.
Somebody's, yeah.
Kevin's. All right, let's see here. Is that it? Yeah. Can everyone see that?
We see a desktop.
You see a desktop. You don't see a realist form?
No.
No.
No, sir.
I think Kevin's sharing his screen.
Yeah.
It's so weird because it shows me what I see. I see. Yeah, that's not my screen. But right. So what I want to do then, I don't even really, I guess, need to do this. I was just going to show you guys. I don't have to show the client this. Let me know if it pops up by any chance.
It's showing up now.
The 1377 treetop.
Yes.
I
Oh, great.
still have Kevin's.
I still have Kevin's screen.
Still seeing Kevin's screen.
Really? So some people see my screen and some see Kevin's.
Yeah, I'm
All
just
right.
looking at a desktop.
All right. Well,
I'm on my phone and I can see it.
okay. Well, so yeah, we'll just, I don't need to do it anyway. However, so what I'm going to have prepared is my well, I have the realist pulled up because I always have that pulled up with me. I'm of course going to have my comps. Always going to have those with me as well. And then I'm going to have a conversation usually about, once we get into, I find out what they're trying to accomplish. I know a little bit more about the house now, money they put into it. Then we're really finding what, you know, about price. We're usually getting into the conversation about price. So I'm going to go over the comps and I'm going to ask them, you know, what, you know, I always want to ask them, you know, what price do they think their house is worth? I just love hearing the answer. Well, you know, that's why you're here, or I want 500,000 for my house. Okay, so you know, you're just always going to know that expectation, right? If it's for sale by owner and they already have the property listed, then you pretty much know what they're asking for their house or what they want, and then you can kind of base your numbers off of that. If you've never been there and they're literally looking for your expertise on pricing, then they'll say, well, I don't know, you know, that's why you're here. And okay, so we'll have that conversation now around price. So I'm talking, really pull up the comps and can you see them on your screen?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Mark and Allison?
Yes.
Everyone can?
Yeah.
Not just Debbie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. See, we knew we could do this. So there was I blame everything on Kevin. So I'm joking. Kevin's awesome. It's not his fault. He helped me out here. All right, cool. So I'm pulling this up just as like I'm pulling this up as on my regular presentation. Remember, I want everything the same. You know, we can kind of get in that flow, right? So what I'm going to pull here, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we pull active pending sold. We're really selling to 3 people, the buyer, the buyer's agent, and most importantly, the appraiser, presuming it's a financing deal. And so I'm going to pull here. I just did an example here. You know, you'll see the documents, 123 Main Street. Well, you know, I pulled on this, the comp 34683 Palm Harbor between 450 and 550. That's the only criteria I put in, 34683 and 450 to 550. So here's a quick snapshot of what's going on in Palm Harbor 34683 between 450 and 550. There's 4 houses for sale between 450 and 550 and 34683. You can kind of see here, you know, I'll know if their house is a 4.2, 5.2, 3.2, whatever, based on that. So we're looking at just the numbers here. This is painting a picture. I like this because it paints a picture on where their property is going to go on the market. So it's not about pricing at the lowest. It's not about pricing at the highest. It's pricing it where it's going to provide the most amount of value in the eyes of the buyer. So if we price your property at 500,000, you're going to show up essentially right here, and you're a 4.3, you know, 2-car garage. So you're going to fall right into this range here. You're going to show here, right? And you're 3,000 square feet, right? So you can just see this is like, so actives are really what the buyers are looking for. You know, they're home shopping. And of course, they're going to lean on the realtor to find out, well, you know, what are the comparables, what's sold in the area. So then what I'm talking to the seller about is, here's the pending. So here's the properties that were just active and are now, you know, pending to under contract to sell. So there's 4 active and there's 14 that are currently pending between 450 and 550. And so this helps you paint a picture on pricing. Remember, we don't make the market, we interpret it. So what I'm doing here on the right-hand side, well, you see over here, active days on market. So then you can see like the price per square foot, you know, some of these are, why are they taking longer to sell? Do they need more work? You know, you're just having a conversation around, and this is really the numbers that are the current snapshot from half hour ago. And so the average here, 4.3 that are pending, 2,700, 188 to 192 a foot, literally hovering right around that 500 range. And on average, you're selling between 18 and 49 days, right? So that's going to give you an idea of when they expect properties to sell in a week, they're taking between 18 and 49 days. So I go back up to the top, the average on the market is 5.3, 167 a foot, a little under 500. So on average, those have been on the market a little while. So, you know, we can kind of, what I can do here too with the screen share, if you don't have your computer in front of you at the listing presentation, I can simply go, I have it pulled up here. This is all these properties here. So we're like, well, I know this house down the street that sold and whatever. So we can go in and click on it and we can actually look at the pictures. Well, my house is more updated than this. It should be priced higher. So I'm like, okay, well, let's literally just go through the pictures and see. Right. So is your home more updated to this? And that's how we can like have a comparison around prices there. So sometimes too, doing the screen share, it's actually, you know, I can actually have maybe a little more tools than even what I would have on a standard listing presentation if they're really giving me a hard time about comps. So then we have the pending, then we go down to sold. So you saw here 188 to 192, a foot, 100 around 190, 100 around 500K. And so here's all that have sold in the past 6 months. So 4 active, 14 pending, and 29 have sold in the past 6 months. So properties are still moving in 34683, even in the past 6 months. The first part of the year here with something we've all never experienced before, right? Like what's going on in the market right now? Are properties even selling? Properties are selling. Properties are selling. I'm looking at the bottom here. I'm just for sake of time here. On average 4.3. So you have, if you're 3,000 square feet, you're a little higher. They're right around 500K, and they're selling pretty quick and pretty close to ask. So hypothetically, let's just say, you know, I think based on this information, you know, we'd recommend a price point, say around 500K. So, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, 500K, that's kind of what we were expecting, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, well, then we have, okay, usually, so then what I get into, okay, so now at this point, like, you know, I'm always checking, making sure they're tracking with me as well. Okay, so do you have any other questions on pricing or anything that we've discussed so far? I guess this is to the group here. Well, I'll stop and make sure we're tracking here. So what I'm doing, and then also if you want to pull up, I pull up Zillow because most people, especially for sale by owner or something like that, you know, they're probably looked at Zillow, they've probably looked at their Zestimate, right? And they want to know if it's accurate or not. See, look, even like this estimate is 447 and it sold for 500K. So, and that's just the, I just pulled a random property out of here for that I'm just using. So this is like the, and just, they have to sign this too for your compliance folder. So I'm going to bring this with, and this, you know, I'm going to need you to initial this document. This is the one that states like, you know, the square footage, 2796 here actually on this one, you know, built in 85. I want to verify all this information on every single listing appointment. Every listing appointment, we're verifying all the information. Everyone good to this point? So then what I'm doing is I'm not doing a search. Did I hear somebody out there?
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, I got a question.
Sure.
How do you answer them as far as the Zestimate? Like, how do you present that to them and how do you work around that? You know, they say, well, you know, Zillow laid it out as so much. You talk to them about algorithms. You talked about that they're a third-party resource, or how do you answer that?
I don't really get into it. I try not to get into it that much, and I hope that I don't bring it up. I just pull up, you know, because sometimes if it's a for sale by owner, they have pictures on here, so sometimes I can already see what their property looks like. There's many times I go to properties and I have no idea what it looks like on the inside. You know, you can of course see like a Google Earth view or whatever. A lot of times you may not see, but like on here, if this was a for sale by owner, I could see on the inside. That's really like how I'm maybe bringing it up. Or say there's a for sale by owner, and not that this would happen, but they have like horrible blurry pictures on their listing, right? So I can kind of point those things out and be like, I can already see several things here on your listing that we can tweak very simply that will increase the activity on your property immensely, right? So as far as the Zestimate goes, you know, I'm like, it's typically more accurate on a community where, you know, say like Trinity, they're all built at the same time. They're all by the same builder. You know, that just may be the features on the inside. So sometimes they're closer than not. I've actually had an investor client. What they do is they have no intentions of selling their property. However, they list it by owner at a higher, like they'll jack the price up, and then all of a sudden the Zestimate jacks up too with their price point. And so it shows on record that their Zestimate's higher. So I give that example thing, be like, it's obviously, it can be manipulated immensely. So let's not look at this estimate. Let's look at the real-time accurate information on our custom CMA that we provided to you. And let's talk about these numbers. This is exactly what has sold in your surrounding area. When buyers are looking, this is exactly what they're looking for. Here's the real numbers right here.
So ours is factual, not a Zestimate.
Yep, correctly. So then I move on. I move on quick.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to answer that. Yeah.
So that's just one way of handling it, of course. Once again, if you need to go into further comps, I've had sellers before, I need 3 comps, I need pictures, I want to know exactly why you think these comps, so whatever. Like, you know, we always want to be prepared. You want to try to find out as much as you can prior to the appointment as well of who you're dealing with. We always talk about the DISC assessment here you know, if it's someone who's like, you know, Jordan, just give me the price and tell me how fast you're going to sell it for. You know, or you're going to have someone who wants to literally kind of go through every comp and see, right? So I always want to be prepared in case I have that type of seller, or if you have a husband and wife who are the opposite and you want to make sure that, you know, you're not just, you know, steamrolling one side, and that you have the proper information. They want to take it in. So I'm going to have as many, you know, tools here as possible to give them, you know, have them be comfortable with the information and our recommendation if they're asking for a recommendation on price. So, and then of course it's based on, well, you know, well, it looks like here that we could price it at, you know, $525. Okay, well, that's going to take you to, I'm not doing the math right now, but that takes you to $210 a square foot. You're going to be a lot higher than the median. So, and you told me you need to be in Colorado by the end of the month. So you're going to be looking at more possibly here on average, you could be looking at, you know, 2 to 3 months to sell your property. Are you okay with it if it doesn't sell for 3 months? Well, no, we need it sold before. All right. Okay. So if we price it here, I think we price it right at 500K. You'll be very competitive. You'll show like a ton of value on the property. And, you know, you're going to be able to get out of it what you're intending here, what you want. So that being said, one thing I've got pulled up. So then I always want to go over then the net sheet. Okay, so everything I'm doing here as far as this goes, this is a quick CMA. You can pull it right on, what do you call it? You can pull it right from the MLS. You go right here to the bottom, you click quick CMA. You got to make sure you check them all. But then it gives that, I just like this is because it's clean. I can simply read, and I've built a script around this of how to present price. If you want to print out individual property, do it however you normally do it. That's the main key there. Do it how you normally do it. I know if you haven't gone to a listing presentation before, you may not have a normal way. Though, feel free to use this way or one way. There's a million ways to do this. This is just the process I take them through. The next step process I take them through is, okay, I'll provide a net sheet for you to, so you're going to know how much you are going to net from the sale of the property. Actually, one other thing here real quick. If someone wants to do say you have your own listing presentation here. This one is right from KW Connect. Just type in listing presentation and you can go and you can edit this, this listing presentation. It walks you through, you know, it's a million pages here or whatever. If you use this normally, if not, or if you've always wanted to use this virtual presentations may be a great time to now drop it in. So obviously change the picture out, put the client's name in, of course, you got to edit it for each one, right? So if you want to go through this presentation, here's a simple way to walk them through it. Needs come first, all these things, right? Clear communication. Here's a business by the numbers. Here's median sales price. You know, make sure all this information is accurate and updated for your presentation. You can print these out if you want to do this in front of the client as well here, right? So,
hey, Jordan, are you also talking to them or discussing, you know, like a cash offer from Keller Offers or some other iBuyer programs?
Absolutely. So we can, for the sake of this meeting, Garrett, I'm not right now. However, if that comes up, usually it's if they say, well, yeah, I received this letter in the mail from Open Door, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so remember, these are one of the things that you do want prepared. I just don't have it here for me, just for time's sake here. We
Sure.
got 15 minutes now too. But however, the what we have is yeah, the more information you have. So yes, especially if they've mentioned that on the phone on your initial like your pre-qualification call. So remember, you call to schedule the appointment. It's that I'm going to set this information out, send this information out to you. I want to call and confirm our appointment and ask a few more qualifying questions. You can find that information out up front. You know, why are you selling? When were you moving to? Okay, great. Do you need to be connected with an agent in Colorado? You know, have you thought about selling the home on your own? You know, have you thought about, have you seen these cash for, you know, cash offer things? And they may tell you that on the spot. So of course, the more information you can know up front, the less objections you're going to have during your listing presentation, right? So definitely, like, that would be another tab that I would have up here. Or we can say, hey, we can, with your permission, of course, because I have to sign a doc saying, yes, you have permission to go get a Keller offer from. So, okay, sure. Oh, this is another option we can do. And we can be doing that in the background while we're listing your property and trying to find other buyers for it too. Because if we can get you multiple offers, no matter which way it is, that would be good for you, right? You're like, yeah, okay, sure. So did that answer your question, Garrett? Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, is your page stuck on the CMA?
Possibly.
Yeah, a few people were all, there it goes. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to kill this now. All right. So then what I'm doing is, can you see the dot loop, the loop for this property? Okay. Everyone can see the loop? Okay.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I was doing this at first. I'm going to show you a best practice. So then what I'm going to do is, okay, now I'm going to do the net sheet for you. So I'm bringing this up on the thing, but remember, look at every time I have to click on one of these links, it has to sit there and load. And then if my internet's slow, then it doesn't load, right? So I already merged these into a document. So now I can go through I can go through all my documents here. I only have the 3 on here just for time's sake again. But what I would do is I would have all my listing docs already merged into one single file. So I don't have to keep clicking back and forth. Did you see that? How, like, okay, now let's take a look at our listing agreement. Let's let it load. Let's go back, right? I want to take away that time frame. So what I did here, I already load them all together. Now I'm doing this in front of them. So once again, this is just the process I take. This is a, and you know, I already, whatever, already pre-filled it out here, but $500,000 title insurance. This is what your title insurance is going to be. And I have a script around this too. And for you agents like that are going to go through this process, like practice with this, and you know, get really clear, of course, on all your documentation. Anything you're explaining, you want to have a script for that as too, not just your presentation. So to be honest, I use this the net sheet here as it's one of my closing tools. Because, okay, yeah, well, 500, you know, we think we want to go to 525 or this. Okay, let's hypothetically, let's see, because the market's telling us it should be priced at 500. And that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck in the eyes of a buyer. So what we're going to look for is, let's just run a net sheet in there and see where you end up. Here's your title insurance. Here's your fees. Here's doc stamps. Every seller pays the state of Florida. Actually, I put on here they don't have a mortgage, so there would be no fee here for the mortgage. Commission 6%, so the 30K. HOA, the stop will make cost you $350. Home warranty, we can save that in our back pocket for negotiation. Your transaction coordination fee, property taxes. Presuming you sell it at this, your taxes are going to be approximately $3K. Is going to be your tax bill for the year. Lien searches, $185. I just ran a round number here. So say your total expenses to sell your property, your total closing costs are $40,000. There's no other fees. I like this because it's transparent and it lets you know exactly what is going to be. So if your property we sell it full price here at $500K, you're going to see these exact numbers on your settlement statement at closing. And then once we go under contract, notice the terminology I'm using. Once we go under contract, we're going to also negotiate the closing date as well. So we'll be able to prorate the taxes. We'll have the title company do a preliminary settlement statement, and you're going to know down to the penny here of what you're going to net at the end of the day. But you're going to see all these exact same fees here of what we're discussing today on your settlement statement. It's transparent. I want you to know up front. And so you own the property free and clear. You don't have a mortgage on it. Your total expenses. You're going to walk away with this house selling at $500 with $460,000. Is that what you were expecting? And I tell you, most of the time when I do this, and even though they wanted a little more, and they're like, because I guess the anxiety, what I find from a seller is they don't know the outcome. Right? They don't know what they're going to net walk with at the end of the day. So I want to tell them this up front to take that objection off the table, because sometimes they think they need $525 to net what they want, but sometimes even by pricing it right, they're still going to net what they want. So you're going to walk with $460,000. Is that what you were expecting? Yeah, that's pretty much what I was expecting. And it's going to get it sold and get you to Colorado in the time that you want. So you ready to move forward? Like, yeah, 500's good. Let's do it. Okay, awesome. So here's our listing agreement. I've tried to do this where they can they can sign right on the spot through .loop. So what I'm doing is another preparation tip. When you get their information up front, say it's 2 sellers, right? You need, if it's 2 different sellers on the deed, you need an email address for each of them for the loop. So get those emails up front, pre-put in all of the information on here into the loop. So I'm filling out the listing presentation, like ready to go. And say I had on here 500K, I had it all pre-filled out, yet, we determined it was, you know what, we really want to sell it in like a day. Let's list it at 480 or something like that. So sometimes you may have to change this up a little bit. And sometimes I'll do the math on the net sheet, sometimes like literally on their kitchen table, and I can do the math quickly here online as well. But what I'm doing, so say everything works out perfect, right? And you already have it on here, or you can leave this stuff blank, but just explain the document. Here's our standard listing presentation. It's you're the seller. Here's your address. We have an effective date. We're going to do a 6-month listing agreement at 500K, 6%, no withdrawal fee, whatever, brokerage sign, lockbox, and this is an exclusive listing between Keller Williams, you and myself. We're going to do our best to procure a buyer. You're going to help us get access to the property. We can't discriminate against anyone in the sale of the home, whatever. Go read through this document, get your own script of how you're going to explain it, and go through I'm going through this just like I'm putting it in front of them at the table, right? So then it comes down to you have to disclose everything you're aware of that materially affects the value of the property. You are who you say you are. You're going to provide free and clear title. And this is our standard listing agreement. We use it for every single property that we list. Next is agency. I'm going to represent you in a single agent fashion. You can explain agency and on and on. I don't have all the listing docs in here just for the sake of time. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to scroll through every single document and explain them right up front. Do you have any questions on that document? Okay, great. Let's go to the next document. Explain it. Do you have any questions on that document? So I'm taking all the, because what I found is if I just send all the whole listing package over, all these docs over for them to sign, some people just sign, right? If they know you well and they trust you or something like that. But some people, I send these documents out and they sit there. We're sitting by the computer, right? And we're hoping that they they haven't signed it. They haven't signed it. Let's reshare it. Let's sign it. They haven't, going through that game of doing that. So what I'm going to do is, okay, everything looks great for you right now. Great. So what I am going to share the document with you right now, the listing agreement with you right now to sign. And I'm sharing it and whatever, it's sending them off to them. So then I'm going to sit there and wait until they sign it. So, okay, now you can go on your phones or go on the computer. You're going to see an email. Each of you will have an email from me that has the listing agreement. It's a simple, it walks you right through the document, .loop, e-certifies it, time stamps it. It's initial on the bottom of every page and a signature on the last. It'll walk you right through it. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to work on some other documents here. So I'm literally just telling them to do it. If I was in front of them, they're literally wet signing it right in front of me, right? So I want them to sign in on the spot. I don't want to, remember, my intention is to get the listing agreement signed on the spot and take the listing on the spot, just like I'm sitting in there in front of them at the table. So I want I'm sitting in front of them right now. My intention is to have them sign that listing document on the spot. Fair? All right, I know I kind of ran through that quickly. What questions do you have based on kind of that process?
How long does it typically take you to get through a virtual presentation versus in person?
You know, it's about the same, and it should be about the same, because the walkthrough should take the same, maybe allow for another minute for them to get their stuff together and whatnot. It's going to take the same length for the listing consultation. It's going to take the same length for me to explain the documents. It's going to take the same length for to discuss price. You know, all those things. We may have a little more. The walkthrough may take a little longer because maybe like, you know, can you zoom in here, or what's that, or can you go back over there, you know, or that may actually be shorter if I missed something and I can't have like a full conversation on it. It should be about the same though. And another thing, I guess, I apologize, forgot to mention in the beginning is most, if you don't have a pro account or something, you have 40 minutes to do a Zoom call. It lasts 40 minutes, right? So if you don't have a pro, then, or they don't have a pro account, or like, I think if you have it, you can send the link out. If you don't have a pro account, you guys have to get your listing done in 40 minutes. So so if you want it done in 40 minutes, don't get a pro account and just send it out and make sure it's all done in that time frame. I don't know, might as well do it that way. And then you can even time yourself too. And the great thing about this, like it's recording now, you can record yourself on your listing presentation. You could actually do it at a physical listing presentation, right? Just for quality and training purposes. Though you can ask for that too. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything, or I can reflect back on this video in case I didn't hear something or I had an additional question. Or is that okay with you, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, that I record this video? Great. And then you can walk through and literally hear yourself. So for the new agents, what you're doing, like I recommend doing anyway, if you're not already doing it, you're script practicing role playing every day with another agent, or you're videotaping yourself as your listing presentation, or you're recording yourself on here, or you're whatever, sing it in your car over and over and over again, like I did for years, right? So those are things like you have to have this script down, so then you can kind of pivot and do all your other things that you need to do here. And once again, listen to the client. So, so it should take about the same time for this appointment as any other. And sometimes like if wet signing takes longer anyway. So did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, what other questions do we have here?
Do you have any of yours recorded?
Listing presentations?
Yeah, did you have you recorded any thus far?
Yeah, I do. I think I only have 2, but I haven't recorded. Yep.
Can we, would you hear that, or is that something you wouldn't share? For the role play purpose.
I can, or yeah, we can role play one maybe, or I can cut out the confidential information, you know. I could probably chop it and send part of it. Maybe not just like, you know, them explaining their situation and whatnot. But as far as them like walking through their house and whatnot, so trust me, I've tried it where in the beginning where they were walking around with their laptop, and I'm like, you know what, there's got to be an easier way to do this. So that's when we started FaceTiming, right, and doing it that way. It's just a little easier for them to do than some, you know, are just not tech savvy whatsoever. So then in that case, once again, if I've still took another one over the phone. Guy from Ohio, he's like, I don't do all the Zoom stuff. Just tell me the docs, send them over, and I'll sign them. I'm like, okay. So
Yeah, like those.
Yeah. So what other questions do you have?
Jordan, what about FaceTime?
Oh.
I'm sorry, your question?
FaceTime. So if that person has an iPhone as well as myself, you know, I have done consultations with my on FaceTime. So what do you recommend about that? Is that better than Zoom? I mean, in some cases.
Well, I want to do the walkthrough only via FaceTime. I want them to be on their desktop or laptop for the presentation. So as I'm screen sharing the docs like I was, you can see them. For some of you that were doing it on your phone, could you read all those documents on my screen share? I don't know.
Maybe with ease.
Yeah, right. So, and then too, I guess one thing that I kind of ran through and didn't clarify on, but I wanted to make sure, can you all read this document? You know, can you read this document? That's one thing maybe to keep checking in as well, getting clarity on. Can you read these comps? Can you read this? Well, if you can't, here's exactly what it's saying, or, you know, or try to expand it, blow it up on your screen, because it's going to blow it up on their screen too. But if they're doing it on their phone and they stay on the FaceTime trying to do it, or they do Zoom from their phone, it's going to be very challenging for them to read the docs if it's someone who wants to read the document. If they're like, you know, just send it over to me, which you can always do that too. If you don't want to do the screen share, you can send over the documents with the email prior to. Like, I sent you an email with these comps, these CMAs. But then I'm like trying to go through it, like go to page 3. And then I'm like, read down number 15. You know what I mean? It's just easier if I'm screen sharing it and saying and I'm having my cursor, here's number 15. Here's, you know, here's this or whatever. So it's just, I found it's easier that way, just to kind of do it the way that we just shown. All these things are just the best practices that I've found. What other questions?
Nice job, young man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone good. So anything we didn't cover? I think we should have covered everything. Once again, final tip, we'll just go over the tips real quick. Remember, do a rehearsal every time. Just like, you know, performers on stage or whatever, they do a rehearsal every time, right? Right before. Make sure you do that rehearsal before. Test your audio, video, your charge, make sure your devices are charged. Encourage the seller to do all those things as well. Send your pre-listing presentation with your instructions, Zoom link. Don't assume that they have Zoom, and send instructions to download or create an account if you have to. If they're not tech savvy themselves, maybe encourage a family member to assist them on the appointment. That's another thing you can do. Encourage a FaceTime if you both have iPhone. Remember, I think you see in the chat, it's Duo, DUO for Android. Even iPhone users can download Duo. So it's an app that anyone can download. It's just, it's an easy way to do, or Skype, or you can do the Zoom app. But remember, we want them to have the appointment on their computer so they can see your documents. And then make sure, and then ultimately, hope for the best, do your best here. I know we've all been everyone has to do things a little differently. So we're hoping that people can understand that, right? That these things may not be standard. To be honest, I'd almost rather do a virtual listing presentation than sit in front of somebody in their kitchen and try to talk through this thing, right? It's kind of frustrating when I'm trying to have a listing appointment and I have a mask on. I mean, that happens all the time now. So this is actually clear. I can speak and get out what I want to. So once again, Paul almost passed out. Yeah. And some people want you to sit outside too, right? Let's sit outside to get some fresh air. It's even hotter, right, with the mask on. So still try to have the kitchen table. I've sat in the Lazy Boy before. I've sat in the outside table where it has ridges and they can't sign on the document. Still try to sit at the kitchen table if you're in there. If you're on the virtual listing presentation here, send them the e-sign document, and remember, have them sign the document while you're still on the Zoom call with them on the spot. Don't send them be like, oh yeah, we'll sign it later, because you never know if they're ever going to sign it later. That goes for a physical listing presentation or virtual.
Well, that gives you an opportunity to make sure that they've received it through Dotloop or DocuSign, whatever you're using.
Mm-hmm. And then now this is going to be how we communicate or how we sign documents going forward too. When we get the offer in, when we get the when we're going to sign an executed contract, we're going to be using this system exactly the same way here. So it's set them up.
Recording this so we can have a copy of this.
Yes, so it's recording, and then it should be uploaded to our Market Center's Facebook page or group page, or all the Market Centers or whatever here. It will be probably on there today.
Thank
It'll be
you.
on the Ubaldini Group YouTube channel.
Ubaldini Group YouTube channel. Oh, perfect. And that's another thing too that I didn't show on here, I didn't screen share, but if you've got some like marketing videos that you've done, you can pull them up too, pull up videos, how you market properties. Those are all things that you can have on here. Remember, this is how you normally do it or how you want to build it, and do it your way. You don't have to do it my way, do it your way, and find your good presentation, and do your best. And yeah, if you need help at any time, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always consider me a resource for you. I'll put my my email and phone number in the chat if you need information from me, or have additional questions. Call me, email me. Always consider me a resource. I'm always here to help you.
Thanks, Jordan.
And
Thank you.
otherwise, that should do it. You're welcome. Thank you all for your participation today. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thanks for
day.
your time, Jordan.
Thanks for saving me, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.